Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are on this beautiful planet. My name is Katana Malinowski, and I am the host of Transformational Art with Katana, making the unmanageable manageable. Welcome. And today I have with me my wonderful friend Katie. She is a YouTuber and video editor. Welcome today, Katie.
Thank you. I'm really glad to talk and connect with you.
Yay. And so my podcast is all about things transformational, all things transformation. So people who've transformed, people who help people transform, and alternative modalities to transformation. So that's kind of where all of these conversations come from. And one of the things that I like to do is I like to start with a question that helps the listeners get to know more about you. So with that being said, who is Katie as a person?
Wow. I am emotional, but logical in the sense of I want to find practical ways to help. I don't want to get stuck in emotion. I'm a vibrant. I love people. I want everyone to be friends with me. I'm a mom. I have 2 5-year-olds. They're brilliant and irritating. And whenever I see other like parents, like, especially like young parents with little kids, I just like tell them, you're doing a good job. I remember how hard it was. I'm proud of you. And I'm in Sweden. Okay. I'm an expat in Sweden. So people are like, thank you. Who is this crazy person? Because in America, people talk, in some parts of America, people talk to each other. I'm from Utah originally. In Sweden, if you don't know people, you don't talk to them. So sometimes I stick out like a sore thumb, but I've been sticking out like a sore thumb my whole life. Yeah, I pet all the puppies. I say hi and play peekaboo with all the babies. I'm that kind of person.
Having a good time every day. That sounds like a great thing. That's interesting that you bring up being an expat in Sweden and the differences, the little differences that show up. Do you find that they're extreme, or is it, do they kind of meld in many ways to what we do?
Well, America's so big too. Like you ask somebody in Florida and somebody in Michigan, what's life like? And you're going to get radically different answers. So
So true.
Yeah. And I've traveled over a huge chunk of the US as well. So I've seen so many differences myself. But for people who have a hard time letting go of the idea that people should be friendly and should make eye contact with you, they can't ever be happy in Sweden if they don't let go of that. Because in Sweden, there's this mindset of if you give somebody eye contact, you're expecting something of them. You're putting an onus on them to respond in a certain way. So Sweden's all about respect and personal space. And like we never had any mask mandates here. It was all personal responsibility. It was all, if you're sick, you just don't go anywhere. And you just follow the rules. Like they trust a lot of people, and that's in Sweden, trust the government. And the government says this thing and they say, okay, we'll do that. And, waiting in line and following the rules. There's a lot of things that are very strange to Americans.
Well, I would start with the word trust.
Yeah.
Especially trusting the government.
Did I just open a can of worms there?
I don't know if it's a can, it's more like a barrel, but that's a really interesting perspective to really look at, how we interact with each other in different ways. And oftentimes we don't even notice on our local front. For example, as you brought up here in the States, in Florida, people have a different way of speaking and their words mean something different to them than somebody in Minnesota, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have two different dialects.
Yeah. And there's differences. I don't live on the mainland of Sweden. I live on one of the islands of Sweden. And I did not know that Sweden had islands before, coming here. So there's Gotland and Öland, I think, but I live on the better one, which is Gotland. And it's a whole culture in itself. They've got a whole history of being taken over by so many other countries and being this small little rugged farmer place.
Wow, that's really incredible. Yeah, there's so much to explore and to know when we step out of our comfort zone.
Uh-huh.
Comfort zones are not the safest place.
No, well, they are safe. That's why people don't want to leave them.
But at the same time, they can be not so safe because people don't want to go outside them. So it's kind of a double-edged blade there. Because
they can't be exposed to what's real out there. And you think this is the way the world is. And it's not. There's so many other ways.
Yeah. And it can create stress on themselves by being stuck in that comfort zone.
Yeah.
The stories that we tell ourselves that keep us stuck in there.
I was reading on your website yesterday and reading looking at your photography exhibit and the things, what the different pictures were about. Holy crap, that's some hard, impossible to even comprehend if you've never been there stuff. Like, if you had thought your whole life this is just how life is, like if you'd never been exposed to anything else, never thought that it could get better. Oh.
And I was stuck in that space for a very long time. And that's why I say it can be a dangerous place to be stuck in. I had a heart attack at the age of 29 when I was still stuck in that space of, it's just never going to get better. It's, the world is a horrible place, and it's against me, not for me. And my health began to improve, even though there are some things that are very much in place from damage over the years. So there are things that won't change, can't change just by eliminating stress or reducing stress, but they can be helped. So there's a definite improvement. I don't have as many symptoms. I don't experience as many of the downsides to that. So that's where I embrace once we get out of those comfort zones, because comfort zones are based on fear of being in those things that we don't know. And if you really want, let's say you really want that job, but you stay comfortable in the job you're in because you're just afraid somebody will say no. Yeah. And who knows, you wouldn't be in a beautiful place if you hadn't gotten out of a comfort zone.
Oh yeah, if I had stayed in Utah. Oh. But hearing that strikes a huge chord in my whole body, like not just my heart. I feel it in my whole body, wanting to help people who are stuck. And like that's a huge motivation for a lot of my podcast conversations that I have is giving people a platform to tell their story of getting free and speaking to that person watching that is them when they were younger, that needed to hear you deserve better, you're worth better, it's possible for your life for you to get free and to be treated the way you deserve. And just like putting this light out into the world. Like one of my most recent conversations was with a trans woman for Trans Day of Visibility, and it just felt so good to put her really hard story out there and to put more visibility to trans people. Just means the world to me.
Yes. the beautiful things that can unfold when we're willing to take that one step outside of our comfort zone. So much beauty around us that we can grab hold of. And with that being said, I'm curious, when you were young, what did you want to grow up to be?
I always wanted to be a writer and a mom. But if YouTube had existed when I was a kid, I definitely would have been curious about that. But it didn't. That didn't exist till I was in my late teens.
Yes. Oh my goodness. It's interesting to me when I get to ask that question, the different answers that I get and how many are similar. And it also reminds me of where I am in the timeline. Like you just brought up YouTube being there when you were a teenager, and I'm thinking, it's a little further along for me, but that's okay. That's okay. It's interesting to me that a lot of women did want to grow up to be a parent. And that is something that I have yet to hear from the male counterparts, that that being a parent was something that was a foresight later down the road. It just seems
it was for my husband. My husband was aware of wanting to be a dad when he was in his teens.
Oh, that's very, very interesting. I like that. Yeah, it was something that just struck me just then, about out of all of the people that I've been blessed to talk with, how few men actually have said that when they were young, they knew that eventually they would want to become fathers. I don't know why I got on that particular tangent, but it just seemed something that stood out as interesting. What is it that makes you happy?
Connecting with people, having genuine conversations, just being real and honest, and getting like comments from people in my videos that they connected with what I said, and they feel less alone with their problem. And sometimes even in real life, like having somebody say they watched my video and it touched them, like that doesn't happen very often, but it's happened a few times, and it's just like playing with my kids, just cuddling up with them and reading books to them, and just telling them every day that I love them and I'm proud of them and I'm so happy that they're there. Because when I've heard so many stories of people who didn't grow up hearing that, I'm like, I'm going to say it even more to my kids. They're going to get sick of hearing me tell them how happy I am that they're here. And like, oh my gosh, the coolest thing happened the other day. There was a parent teacher conference type thing because their kids are going to go to real school soon. And the teachers were telling us stuff about them that we didn't know. Cause like every day I asked them, how was it at school? What did you do? And they tell me what they ate pretty much. But the teachers said that the girls like include other kids in when they're playing, or like when other kids have problems, one of them will step in and try to help them fix their problem and be a peacemaker. And I'm like, my kids did that. I love cuddling up with my kittens while I'm editing. I love it when I edit something for somebody and then they're just really happy with it, and they tell me that they're really happy with what I did and that I put my creativity and myself into it, and the work was appreciated. I love cutting up magazines and gluing weird modern art collages together and just enjoying the colors. Yeah.
Oh, you have a lot of things that definitely bring you joy, and that is
That's just the tip of the iceberg.
I like that, you like helping people. You do that a lot, and your daughters are a reflection of that too. That is adorable, and it's always so fun when we get to see that mirrored back through our little people. I have grandchildren now, so I get to see it again in another way. And I always knew that I love my children so much, unconditionally. And then when I had grandchildren, it was just a whole nother level. And I was like, oh, wow, who knew that it could continue to expand, that love can actually grow and get bigger. It kind of reminded me of the Grinch when his heart grew. And yeah, joy and happiness is something that we can choose to bring into our lives at any given time. And it helps with our overall health, our whole body health, the mind, the body, the spirit. And when you're feeding the whole package, when you're nourishing it and you're taking good care of it, it helps the overall health. And then the impact to the world, the ripple impact is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said,
Yeah,
that person that'll come back and say, oh my gosh, thank you.
And you never know what impact things have. Like, you never know what things people will remember about you that you will just completely forget about. Like this one girl from high school, I remembered her. I remembered we were somewhat friendly and we said hi, and she's like, I'm on Facebook, I'll never forget that time that my leg hurt and you helped me walk to down the hallway or something. Like, I have no memory of this.
Yeah.
That was like 20 years ago.
It is amazing how that one thing can stand out. It's like with my photo project that you were mentioning earlier.
Oh man.
There's a person that wrote on, it's either page 11, I think it's page 11 of the guest book, from where people signed in and would make comments. And they said, you gave me hope. I mean, there's more to it than that. There's so much I'm ashamed of. And one day I hope to be like you. You gave me hope. It still brings emotion up for me. Yes, that's it. That's why we do what we do. That's why. And it comes in so many different forms.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many heart-centered people out there right now. And I really feel like the earth is experiencing a shift to more heart-centered people.
Yeah. Like, I grew up religious. I grew up evangelical. And since walking away from that, I still consider myself spiritual in a way, but definitely not evangelical. And I don't even, like, to their eyes, the way that I define Christianity wouldn't fit their view of Christianity anymore. I'd just be a straight up apostate heathen, but oh well. I just feel so much better in freedom, and it's not about judging people. Like, I have a trans brother that's still not accepted by a bunch of people in my family, and it took me so long to accept him. And it's just, they say that it's all about hope, but it's about doing the right thing, dressing the right way, talking the right way, voting the right way. And and it's like, okay, you're not really offering that hope. You're saying just conform or go to hell.
Yes. And I would love to know more about your own transformation, because I really think that, there's going to be some people that's going to resonate with, and might just be that one moment, that one thing that they hear that'll give them hope.
Yeah. It feels like it's all happened really gradually. Like, I had before I had my twins, I had a miscarriage. It was a blighted ovum. And so it's where the egg grows, but there's nothing inside of it. That's what they said. And that was just so heartbreaking and so confusing. Like, and then I had another friend who had a miscarriage. Her baby was further along, actually had a body. And if somehow it was angrier at God about her baby not making it than mine, because hers was further along. And I was like, well, okay, mine didn't, but at least hers will, right? And I'd always kind of been taught to, in a way, to mock people who give up on God because they don't get what they want, because God's not Santa Claus. He's not a little wind up doll and you put money in and you get your wish. But it's still just like, well, why, if he's all powerful and all caring and all these things, why still, like, why? I still don't like hearing miracle stories like, oh, if this hadn't happened, grandma would have been frozen to death outside and eaten by dogs. Sorry, that was a little bit graphic. But God saved her. But what about all the grandmas that do get eaten and frozen? Like, come on.
Yeah.
They didn't pray the right incantation well enough. Like, their faith wasn't good enough. And having a trans brother, I first accepted him, but then I was like, but I have to turn to the Bible. I decided to turn to the Bible and just read it really hard and try to figure this out. And when you read the Bible like that, like you're looking for answers, you will find it, whether they're right or wrong, And so then I turned to the other side and it was like, no, we just got to pray for God to just make her better, Just lots of little things added up. Trump becoming president, finding out that my dad was voting for him the second time. I don't think he did the first time. COVID, masks, January 6th, just these things added up to being like, nope. And hearing more stories of trans people, watching TV shows and understanding through different characters, like, wow, they didn't choose this. This is just who they are and they're in pain, just having my heart so gradually open through stories and just building up this courage to be like, I don't care what my parents think, like, they're wrong. Like, and being in that in January 6th, especially, just leading me to be much more open on my YouTube channel about how my beliefs have changed, and and then like finding out, oh, actually the rapture is a fake thing. It's not anywhere in the Bible. It's completely made up, fabricated from the 1800s from a con artist. It just was like, it made me so angry and discombobulated, like, wait. And that the word homosexual wasn't in the Bible till 1946. It wasn't in any translation until this. Like, when you're told your whole life the Bible is the infallible word of God, but these huge glaring mistakes, and churches just being about keeping the organization running, chewing up people and spitting them out, covering up abuse and scandals. Like, you hear about these things so much and you're like, how many more of these stories do we have to hear before we actually think, maybe there's actually a problem here?
Yeah. And
like, I want to meet brown Jesus. I'm tired of white Jesus, the mascot of colonialism and power and patriarchy. Like, these things have done so much damage and hurt so many people. So I'm doing a new series on my channel of reclaiming trauma, people talking about getting out of trauma and their stories of not being listened to and purity culture messing them up, and these things to just put more truth out there to show people they're not alone. And so many people just living in fear of hell and rapture, and not being good enough their whole lives. Like, I don't go to church these days, and I don't read my Bible, but I feel so much more peaceful and hopeful and happy in myself. Like, I feel like I can guilt-free read books and watch TV shows and not feel like, oh, I should have been praying, I should have been reading my Bible. I feel like I'm a better mom, a better wife, a better person. I just feel better not supporting an institution that hurts people.
Yes, your story resonates with me. And I know that we touched on that before. And I had my own experience that led me away from the church at 12 when they declared that I was the devil. I was the devil and I was here to take over the world. And then, of course, there were many other subtle, what I call subtle moments, and but then they're not so subtle, because you're right. To my experience and in my interpretation, and having, like you, read so many different types of Bibles and trying to understand from all these different perspectives, what is this that everybody's getting from these words, which is supposed to be the word, and the one thing that I do understand is that it's an interpretation of what was thought to be the word. Mm-hmm. So that's an important factor. But I also remember in college, when one of the classes that I was actually required to take was a humanities class, and we studied the Bible. We went through and we broke it down, broke it apart, and started breaking it into pieces. And I knew this was dangerous territory for me because of the experiences that I had had leading up to this. And as you know of my history, there was one part where they started to talk about molestation. It's needless to say, I'm sitting in my space just trying to stay quiet as a person who went through molestation. And this young man, I was in my 30s at the time, this young man who was maybe 18 said, well, if God wanted the father to molest his daughter, then that's God's will. And that was a button for me that really lit me up. And that was just another aspect of looking at, religion and churches and spirituality. And one of the things that I think I really came down to, and I boiled it down for me, was that spirituality is within each one of us. It's a one-on-one with the divine. And that divine can look differently to so many different people. It's when you get into churches and you get into the organized religion, what I call box store religion, that you run into problems. And it's that way through history. It has been that way through history, time and again. The 100 Years' War, just to name but one example. And it's been about judgment. One moment they're telling you not to judge, but that's what they're always in, judgment. And then you mentioned the money part. And I've always stopped to really observe the money flow in the church system. And then you look at some of these people who stand up in front of millions of people in these stadiums. If you pay me, God will give you your car. God will give you your house. God will give you your health. And so these things to me were always actually an example of what true blasphemy would be. Because, you get into worshiping false idols. I could go on a tangent with that one all day long and how many ways that shows up. So I just wanted to connect with you on that one day.
Like it pisses me off. It fills me with fury that anybody would condone abuse of a child, or anybody, but especially a child. Like, how dare they? There's no way, there's no universe. And if there was a God that would condone it, I wouldn't want anything to do with that bastard. Like, no. There's no reason to hurt anybody, and especially children. Like, the Bible even says, like, it's better if you're gonna hurt a child, it'd be better for you to just put a rope around a stone around your neck and jump into water. Like,
yeah. And that was the space that I ended up coming from. And I know that there's a lot of, ambiguity for people, because there are so many mixed messages. And oftentimes, as you are familiar with, there's not a lot of wiggle room of where to reach out, because friends and family will push you out if you're different and you think differently. And, thank goodness for people like you and I who are here to say, you know what? You need to stand in what's authentic. If your heart is telling you that those words are bullshit, then those words are bullshit.
Like, how did I ever want to believe in hell? I don't understand it. Like, eternal torment. Like, even humans aren't that bad. There's a life sentence. You fill that life sentence, you die of old age. And even for, like, if a woman's had her mind brainwashed against the Bible because her husband's always quoting, "You must submit to me," blah blah blah, and her heart is absolutely poisoned against the Bible because he's used it against her, God wouldn't punish her to send her to hell for not wanting to have anything to do with him.
Right.
Like, or, the age of accountability, the kid was 12 and they stole something and didn't ask for forgiveness, so eternal fiery damnation. That makes sense. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. We could definitely do a couple hours long shows on just this topic alone. And it just gets you brought up your trans brother, and I know lots of people. I know somebody who's asexual. I know lots of people who were LGBTQIA, and I learn more every day, and I make it purposeful to learn. So I'm not being ignorant in what I say to them as much as what I say about them. So I definitely could not go out and speak on their behalf as an expert. And we often see that happen. And it just, there's so much confusion and so many stigmas and so many things to make people go, okay, where do I turn? What do I do? I'm feeling overwhelmed. It creates, a lack of focus. They don't know who they can trust. And that's why I like doing these podcasts and the YouTube channels, and getting our messages out there, that there are actually a lot of us out here that will help you with that and help you understand that you're not alone, and that there are a lot of different ways to look at different things, and it is okay. And
it's okay to not know everything, and to feel like that I'm intimidated by all these the alphabet mafia names, and I'm going to say something wrong, but then you just listen to them. You just ask questions. You just open yourself up to be a learner, and people appreciate that effort.
Absolutely. And with that being said, that kind of leads me into my next question as we're getting close to the end of our time together here today. What is it that got you on the path you're on today with what you do?
Being lonely, my life felt so purposeful and amazing. I was a traveling actor performing in I went to 26 different countries and 3 continents and learned lines and booked shows and felt like I was making a difference. And then I was a mom and I was a milk cow, and just wanting to find something to do to connect with people. And first it was just vlogs, and then it was sharing from my heart and sharing it. When I first started, I was still pretty Christian, classical Christian. So I was like, I want to teach Christians how to love better. And then I was like, wow, that was really, really, what's the word? When you think very high of yourself, like, who the heck am I? Like, oh,
Yeah.
but everybody's, when you're starting out, you're just finding out your voice. And so I don't want to be too embarrassed about how I was then.
Right.
But yeah, wanting to save precious memories, wanting to connect with people. And the path that I'm on right now of the combining podcasts and vlogs on my channel is just wanting to learn, wanting to grow, and anybody who wants to learn and grow with me to be able to, learn. I'm not going to speak for a trans person. I'm going to have a trans person on my channel and have listened to their story and amplifying voices of people of color and anyone else I'm able to connect with to learn and grow and put hope and you can't learn compassion unless you listen, unless you feel what other people are feeling. Like those words I have there: listen, inspire, grow. They're like from one step to the next to the next. Yeah, that was very, very well said. I'm just like tripping all over my words. Eloquent, so eloquent.
Oh, well, that brings us to, what is it specifically that you do when you work with people, and how can they reach out to you?
When I work with people, because my job is video editor, I take footage from them and I ask if we can work together to make it great. Like if I'm missing something in B-roll, like, oh, could you just film a tree a little bit for me? Or can you show this to go along with that? Or can you record yourself just talking a little bit about this thing? So we try to work together to make the story of the video come together as best as it can. And I just puzzle it together. I puzzle them talking and the other footage that they gave me, and I just make it come together, and I have so much fun with that. And what I do when I talk with people like on my podcast is I have a pre-conversation with them, and we kind of determine what we can talk about. And I take a bunch of notes, and then I write out questions, and then go from those. But I go off track sometimes if I'm really interested by something, but try to keep it together. And yeah, have an authentic conversation and just hope that it will all come together, and that it will be something that they will feel connected to, and that hopefully they will share with their sphere of influence.
Fantastic. And how can they reach out to you?
You can find my YouTube channel. It's Epic Kate. I painted that. I'm so talented. Epic Kate. The full channel is called Epic Kate Bjärgvide, but I know that sounds a little weird. It looks like bee-yarg-vee-dah. My email address is mail.epic.kate@gmail.com. And I'm also on Instagram. I am Epic Kate with little underscores between it.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, I also have a second channel for YouTubers, for creators, and it is to encourage them. It's getting to the heart of creating, and it's called YouTubing with Katie.
I love that smile. Love that. I'm luring you in. Well, Katie, I sure appreciate you being here today with me and, sharing you and what you do and your magic. And I'm sure the listeners are happy that you were here with us today too.
Oh,
So
thank
thank
you.
you. Mm.
I'm really honored to be here, and I just wish I could hug you. That's how I end my conversations and videos, is I give hugs. That you're just such a survivor and just shining your light and taking the hard things in your life and just using that to just help you to love more. That's just such a beautiful light.
Thank you. You have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you. It's late, so it's not much left of it.
Yes, the new world of multiple time zones. This is still being worked out.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Transformational Art with Katana. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like button and share the link to this podcast with your family and friends. To connect with me personally, please send an email to transformationalartwithkatana@gmail.com. Have a beautiful day.